Well, good morning everybody. I'm Gary from Lantana Removal, Queensland. We're at Narangba. We operate from here. We eradicate lantana. We don't manage lantana. We just straight out eradicate it. We don't play games with it. So that's one of the things that needs to change within the state government's policy framework, is that there's all sorts of talk of managing lantana. It's such a ridiculous subject, topic and description. You know, we need to eradicate lantana. We don't need to take it prisoners, go out and buy it a drink and whatnot. We need to just straight out eradicate it. And it's not that hard to do. So I don't know why all of the kerfuffle over the years has been where it has been. But things are changing now. Councils are contacting me directly rather than me chasing councils down and trying to make contact with their weed sections. Councils are now actually coming to me to talk to me. Now, from this point, I really need your help, okay? What I need is for people to like the page, Lantana Removal Queensland, like the page, and then whenever I post stuff, you automatically see it. At the moment, I pay out of my own pocket a considerable amount of money to reach people and to get this message out there. And by you guys simply liking that page means that you'll see it much easier, and friends of yours will see it. So please share our pages and our information around to people so they can see that there is proper solutions to this material, and we can't turn our back on it the way that the state government and federal government have. Now, all the power to the council, although I haven't had the meetings yet, and I'm looking forward to those meetings today. I have the Brisbane City Council talking to me. And soon Moreton Bay Regional Council have indicated they will sit down and have a discussion with me. So from that, the councils are the only ones making any actual movement. Now, I've contacted the Department of Primary Industries, I've contacted Biosecurity, I have been passed on by the Premiers of Queensland and New South Wales to the Environment Ministers. You know, I haven't heard a word from any of those people. I haven't heard anything directly from the Premiers either. Now, apart from the saying that they were sending me across there, or one of them was. I can't remember exactly, because I'm now communicating with so many different government departments. I'm communicating to them, not them responding to me, that I can't remember everybody I've contacted, everybody I haven't, in all the different avenues. But I would suggest to you guys, and I've always said this from day one, do not take my word for my saying to you, this is how this works, okay? I have chased this down at a great deal of expense and hassle to get to this point of what I now know, okay? I want you guys to go out there and ask the questions yourselves, because then you know it's not my opinion in what's happened with this, the policies related to removing lantana and stuff like that. The difference between us and earth moving contractors that say we're vegetation specialists and we clear land and all these things, under the Act and under the regulation, a lot of the majority of people doing the material in the way that they have always done it are operating illegally nowadays. Okay, you cannot push the material down to the bottom of the hill anymore. You can't just whole scale slaughter the whole lot. Although there is a 50% area there where there's a little bit of discrepancy, but still the fact of the law is you cannot move the top of the mountain to the bottom of the hill, okay? So a lot of the ways that things were done, there's a lot of other ways that also with poisons and things like that there's certain stipulations on what can and can't be done that have changed the playing field completely. And the greatest majority of people are completely oblivious to those changes of law. That's why we've kept ourselves so far up to date on what we can and can't achieve. And with our procedures and our systems, we far exceed the regulatory responsibilities and the way they say it should be done or what needs to be achieved. So it's a big deal for councils to start coming to us to then be in front of this game, because what I sort of think is going to happen is, as this year progresses, a lot of the other government departments, government parties are going to turn councils into the scapegoats. Yes, there's corruption in councils. Yes, all those things are true to a certain degree. But just like the police force or the government or any other organisation, private or government, there are more good people in any organisation than people doing the wrong thing. But the trouble is, those people doing the wrong thing always get that much publicity that it's assumed that everybody is doing the wrong thing, and it's simply not true. By these individuals, you know, in their capacities within the councils, contacting me and seeking to sit down and have discussions with me, they are actively trying to solve this issue for their organisation, for the councils. See, that's another thing I dislike, is that government departments and governments are trying to use the terminology of local government describing council. For the greatest majority of people, they see council, right, not as local government. They see it as council. That's what they know it as. That's what they refer to it as. All of people's bad attitudes towards councils are specific to how they see things in their neighbourhoods being controlled, managed and done. So their attitudes are reflective of that. This speak of it being a local government sort of draws away from that that thought process of the way people see them. So at the end of the day, I'm trying to say, well, you know, I will always refer to them as council because that's what I've known them as all of my life. And, you know, to the greatest majority of things, they do a hard job. You think of it this way: the state government is the one that makes the regulations on saying this is how we will respond to weeds. Okay, the council's then supposed to be the people on the ground that implement those policies. So when the state government says there's no more money for that, Mr. Council, you're not getting any funding for that, you stretch the ball of string as far as you possibly can and the rest is your problem, it paints the council as being the bad guy in the war on weeds that has just been blown out of the water. But this winding back of funding and winding back of policy didn't start last year. Don't get that wrong for a split second. These biosecurity issues, and they are biosecurity, and that's what I started to say. I encourage you all to contact the Department of Primary Industries, contact the Biosecurity Division and ask them directly. So what was the plan? You've got a weed, by fact, that increases by 20 to 30% on a bad to average year. On a good year, that material can reproduce and expand by 50 to 100%. On a season that we've had like this rain that we had earlier in the year, it can increase by 50 to 100%. Now, what was their plan? Because they've gone, well, it's now a management issue. Management isn't eradication. Unless we're eradicating weeds, so you don't have to be a rocket science or really go out there and go, I need to have a bachelor of whatever to understand or to have an opinion on this subject. What were they thinking? They're biosecurity, and they just gave up. They changed the classification of the weeds secretly. Like, this was never released to the public and said, by the way, guys, we're going to give up on doing anything with Lantana. There's no more funding. We're just going to watch it and see. The actual factual policy, and this will have to come out, is to say to you that it's birds spreading the actual lantana, the weed seed from the lantana. Okay? With those growth processes, do you think there's 12,000 seeds put out and then the birds flew those seeds all over the place and expanded that that scope of expansion? No, it didn't. It's water that's doing far more than any section of bird community will ever do on one little set of plants. It's just an absolutely ridiculous statement. It also, and this is factually what I was told as the explanation of this, factually, the government then will only treat areas of new infestation. Okay, so we're supposed to feel good about that. They're not going to keep up with the growth. They're only going to deal with the new infestations. Okay? Okay, so you're telling me, as the Department of Primary Industries, as the state government, you're telling me that you know where every single existing plant is. That's what that would infer. Okay? We'd need to cut to the chase there. That's what that infers. I know where every single plant is. So therefore, I know what is a new infestation, and I know what is an existing infestation. We're not going to tackle any of those existing infestations, only the new ones. That is such a, you know, it defies logic for me to even repeat that, and I get pumped up and upset repeating it, because it's an insult to my intelligence that they even have a clue the scope and level of the infestations at this point, let alone the ability themselves of actually eradicating this weed. And yet it's not hard. We've been doing it for over 30 years without chemicals, no problems at all. It's not hard. So why has it been demonized into saying it's such a massive problem? I suspect because it's unsexy. It's not a sexy thing to be going, we're going to spend this amount of money on weeds. But anybody who grows anything, anybody who cares about their garden and their surroundings knows what weeds are like, knows how hard it is to control weeds. You can't turn your back on them and go, it'll get better sometime. It's miles worse than it has ever been. Then how and what did they plan? They didn't have any plan. They just gave up on it and hoped to get away with it for however many years they have been, because they didn't stop doing this last week. This has been a very long time that it's been sneakily going on until now, where we're aware of what's actually been put in place. So first off, they need to put Lantana back on an eradication program. We can beat the program. People like you need to be empowered to understand how to get this thing done in the future. So the part of the eradication program, as I see it, is for us to educate general public around the areas that we're doing these infestations for councils and local governments, well, councils and state governments, state forests and national parks, to then be able to train the local people to take responsibility for their own areas after we've gone through and eradicated it, for the mop-up process. And then they will be able to target their own community areas. And this will build a community network throughout the country that will unite local communities and bring communities together to take charge and to be empowered. That's what's been robbed, and that's one of the most unhappy things. There's lots of things going through my head to want to use words, but they don't fit the thing. I'm most unhappy about that people have been given misinformation and made out this is such a difficult topic so that we can justify why we do nothing about it. It's an unsexy thing. Look, I accept that. Weeds are weeds. They're not pretty. I love getting out there and smashing them to pieces, because it's like I'm taking back our own little piece of country. And every piece of country we take back is another piece of country we've succeeded with. And it inspires others who have been battling this as long as I have, and some even longer, to take the forefront and just keep tackling this head on. The rubbish, if it does come up from state government and federal government, now I can understand why they make this statement, okay, because it's obvious from the level of the economy that we live in now that they have no clue about how this actually works. Instead of saying it's going to cost $100 million or $1 billion, whatever the figure they want to put on it, and it's going to bankrupt the country, that's a load of garbage. When you look at how many jobs are created with that, even if you said mum and dad are out there with their kids cleaning up their own little patch of Lantana, they're buying fuel, they're buying ice creams, they're buying things to be out there in the thing. They might be having a picnic while they're doing it. They might be using all sorts of sauce. There's more money going back into the economy in people being outside of their homes, being healthy, being actively involved. The amount of community support to then have people interacting instead of, you know, texting over things and being more and more withdrawn from the community. there will be many more people meeting that would have never met. Many more relationships will start that will have started from people being actively following what they believe in and improving their community and their environment around them. And that will improve their lives as well. There is no losses to this. It's a load of rubbish for the government to say it's going to cost this amount of money. You know, the taxes alone on that subject stimulate the economy, grow jobs, real jobs, not the jobs where they say, oh, we created 80,000 jobs, you know, last year. You know, and you look across it, well, we lost 250,000 jobs, so how did you create 80,000? And what did you create? Because it's a load of rubbish. There's so much misinformation on the television and the dishonesty being fed to us every single day to brainwash us away from the facts around us. We need to take our ecology back. We need to take back our communities and to work together and foster these things. In my little plan, just of what I consider to be those things, I believe the government should be paying paying all of our costs, drop us in the community where all this stuff is down the footpaths and all over the place, and door knock. Ask those people to come out of their houses and be involved and watch what's done and how it's done, and then increase the neighbourhood's stimulation to understand they can take over that process. And then they don't have to have that Lantana back. But the council can't come back and maintain that all the time. If the council's going to pay the money to get rid of that stuff, then the community has to step up, be shown how to manage it and stop it from coming back. It's not that hard. There's too much misinformation of people out there in the private sector spreading things around that are completely incorrect. You know, it matches everything that comes from government. Oh, little tiny birds enjoy this material, so it's not completely a terrible thing that this material is completely taking over the way it is. Okay, these are important issues, and it's easier for me to talk this out than try and type this out. The difference now with Lantana and what has happened to us and been done to us with this subject is that the Lantana occupies areas that strategically it can never be allowed to occupy. We need to take a war footing with this. We need to take a military strategic approach to this subject, and then we will beat Lantana. Where it hasn't been beaten before, we will beat Lantana and we will solve this issue. Will we eradicate it completely from our lands? Of course we can't, because there are going to be pockets of this material in places that people don't frequent. And that's another bugbear. You know, the government and the national parks and everybody else wants to boot all of the people out of the state forests and national parks and all of these other places, because this stuff is just completely out of control. And we do jobs for people that border these places, and you look across their fence line and they're fighting a war to stop that material coming into their property. It's just absolutely unacceptable. And it's in terrain that cannot be allowed to occupy. That's what I mean. We have to have open communications, sit down with the people who are supposed to be the people who make the decisions on this material, and we need to completely convey a completely different strategy, one that actually works, which is what's failed all of the way through this. Okay, the policies and the ways that they've gone about this was from bought science. Science they paid for. Information they were told, this is how this material works, can't be possibly beaten. I come from a construction, earth moving background that if we were given a job to do, that was it. We knew how to do it. We went out there, we executed the plan, and it actually got done. Hence, we eradicate Lantana. We do not buy it a drink. We don't take it out to dinner. We just kill it. That's it. It's out of there. It's gone. It's disposed of. It's finished. We're not sticking a bug up its bum and going, oh, well, hopefully this will do some damage to it and stop it from seeding. When I take that plant, it is gone. It's gone from production. It's finished. You know, it's stupid to be paying out so much money to try and find solutions that are so hit or miss. Did we learn nothing from the cane toad, foxes, you name it, that was brought to this country that is still a problem today? What? So we trust the scientists, you know, we trust that system. No, it's gotten us to where we are. We need to just have a very blunt force trauma. That's how it gets done. Now, having said that, our systems are that user-friendly to the environment that we do very little damage, yet we are so effective in what we do. That's our claim to fame. We don't destroy everything else to get that one item, and then we'll go back and we'll reseed, we'll regenerate, we'll do all those other things after we've decimated the ecology. You can't have those policies. They're stupid. Why were they ever doing that in the first place? You need to cut the poisons out of this stuff. You do that much damage to the subsoil life that you then need to rely on to build back the ecology. It's just ludicrous. It makes no sense at all. This plant is way too tied into the mycorrhizal fungi underground, the subsoil structure, all of the subsoil life, and you poison the whole lot of it. It's just ludicrous. And it's far more labour intensive. When we go through doing what we do, it's far more cost effective and faster and final. Then you only need a tiny mop up at 3 to 6 months, and you might do something the next year, maybe. But we do 80%, and 80% has no reoccurrence. Unless it's being infested from somewhere else higher up, then it doesn't come back. You know, we need to be looking at those processes better, that we take it on the first time properly, and then we succeed. We're not spending, you know, huge amounts in multiple applications and follow-ups because we did such a fast job, pushed by time, to go, oh well, let's just rush this and go through at supersonic speed and make it look like it was something effective, and it didn't work. And that's what we've had before. That's where our unique process is so unique that it is that effective. You're spending far less to do it properly now instead of doing it multiple times over and over and over again. So that's why the video's up. Please like our videos. Please go on to YouTube and follow on from there. Please support us with liking the page and sharing the page around and getting this discussion out there. Please go forward and ask the questions. Ask them of Mr. Turnbull. Ask them of the Queensland premiers, Queensland and New South Wales premiers. Ask all these things. Don't be a passenger anymore. I've opened the door and started this ball rolling. You know, if you're really serious about the ecology, you don't have to put money in. I'm paying for all this. You know, turn around and support it by stepping that pressure up. We have a right to complain. Use the complaints form on the DPI and ask the questions and say, well, what do you want to see happen as the change? I want to see it fixed. I want to see it change classification. I want to see us actively out there. It's used as an excuse that little birdies like this stuff, so therefore we can leave it there and it's a great thing. It's used as an excuse to say, oh, well, there's probably some ecology changes with having the lantana there, that it suppresses some other weed. There are no goods come from this material being where it is. The amount that it chokes out all of those trees and stops any animals from eating those things. One of the things you may or may not have noticed by my aerial drone footage, have a proper look at the drone footage for animal tracks through the materials. Okay, that one from Mount Glorious, you'll see there's a lot of vine material. The creek is completely covered. It's just completely non-existent. It's underground, under canopy. Have a look for animal tracks. Nothing is getting to any of those areas at all. It's zero. The footage from that spot out at Sanford, you can see through that that staging point that the council has there. That's just that's absolutely incredible. There is no animal movement through those areas at all. Yet the state government want to tell us that these that they care about the ecology. That's why they changed these laws on the actual land clearing. This is far more devastating than the land clearing ever was. Okay, and no greenies are getting this information to here. Have a look at that. I would be absolutely ropeable, and I believe people should be, that you're being told that your property, my property, is a bastion for wildlife, because all of the other areas are completely choked with all sorts of materials. That's that point. Lantana, they say, as an excuse is lower on the list. It's low on the list. It's actually off the list. Okay, that's how far down they've moved it, because they have lost control of numerous weeds. Numerous weeds. And we cannot blame the councils. The funding comes from above. It's an unsexy topic to say I'm a weeds officer for the council and therefore I do this job. People hate me because I go to their properties and I say, you must clean this up, or you must clean that up, or you must do this. And none of us like hearing you must. Okay? But they're not being given any money for this type of thing. Not on the scale that it needs to, because the rest of the government, the federal and the state government, want to just broom this under the carpet. I haven't been contacted by Mr. Turnbull or any of his government or any of the state governments. Now, why is that? You know, that's absolutely disgusting. That's about 4 weeks old now, and I have not been contacted yet. Nobody is picking the phone up from that level of government to go, okay, so what do you propose? You obviously are a loudmouth and you have lots to say. How do you intend to fix this? Because, hey, guys, I can tell you, we can fix this. Trouble is, we've got to sit down as a big group and we've got to nut all this out, and then we've got to plan this strategic war. It's a war, make no mistake. You may think you're insulated from it sitting in city life, but this stuff is coming for you. If you goes for a drive through Sanford and everything else, out the back through Indooroopilly and out to Chapel Hill and then out through Kenmore and Brookfield, go out to Moggle, have a look at the infestations throughout those suburbs. And that's just a couple, you know. Ipswich Council was given such a flogging for corruption and everything else, and yet they were the only council that put a 50% rebate, whatever you want to call it, that up to $600, they'd actually put $600 into your clearing of situation with Lantana and that. You know, there might be some things that come from some areas that aren't fantastic, but some of the councils prior to this were trying to do important things, and that's without the proper funding from above. They cared enough to do that. So not all councils that had problems were bad councils either, but that's what gets portrayed. And I believe this is a very big chance that these councils will turn around and be portrayed as the bad guy, not with this subject, but with the corruption and the rest of the stuff, to draw attention away from Mr. Turnbull's problems with the NBN and the rest of the stuff that we've suffered, you know, and other governments with the train fiasco to Redcliffe. You know, that's a big enough issue on its own, how many millions upon millions of dollars we lost there. So it's probably not a good thing that we start talking about those things. It's best we get these weeds under control and we get a serious statement from these government departments and government what's-the-names to set us up to eradicate this stuff. We're ready to rock and roll. We're ready to go. We've been doing this for so long. We just need to get the right right funding and the right mentality within the government departments that we can win this thing. You know, we're never going to eradicate it to 100%, but we have to be eradicating it completely. We can't be accepting them to give up on this stuff. You know, we're never going to find Lantana in every pocket it has. That's not going to happen, because some of the places are so remote. But there's places that I know of that have 100-year-old Lantana on them, and they cannot be tolerated there. They're in high country that they're just pumping billions and billions of seeds every single season down into Sanford Valley. We cannot tolerate them being there. The councils have been fighting the battle down on the easy stuff, down on ground level, where they're not fighting the disease there. The disease is coming from above them because they never had the ability to go after those things in the places where we do, right? That's our unique ability, is we can get into those terrains at a very low footprint and remove them from those things. You're cutting out the cancer. Then you can deal with the stuff down at ground level. That's why billions of dollars, and I don't think it's anything like that, have been spent on Lantana that's never been successful? Because they're fighting the war in the wrong place. They don't understand the animal well enough to understand we need to be fighting it in these strategic places. That's what we do. That's what we know. That's our ability to be able to get in there. And the councils, the governments, state and federal, need to sit down and have a proper moratorium, or whatever you call it. I'm dyslexic, so I can talk the talk, but I can't write the stuff. It ends up being 3 million words long, and half of them don't fit there anyway. If it wasn't for spell checker, nobody'd hear from me at all. But I need your help. The public must be empowered to understand they can stop this beast. And once we start doing it locally within those places, and we go to the high country and we get it out of those places, we're going to really change the ecological system of our country. We cannot have it in watercourses, and we cannot have it in the high country. It must be denied access to those places. We have a huge list from what we know of Lantana of the specific areas that the government must support our removal of it from those areas before anything else. They must be removed from those areas. And then the rest of the weeds can be attacked along the way. Cat's claw and cockspur, same animal. It's a horrifically horrible plant. It's 60, 80 feet in trees. With the lantana, the lantana's got to 60 feet climbing it. And it's killing everything that it's climbing. We cannot tolerate these things. That's what we do. We get into those special places, those sensitive areas, and we don't massacre the environment to do it. It is a skill. It's a very, very important skill that we've learned over so many years. And that's our ethos. That's our belief. It's not just saying it to people to win their support. It's how we don't destroy something to fix something else. You can't do that. You have to go through there ecologically soundly, and you can still do it, and you can still achieve. That's the other part that's wrong, is that people think you give away productivity for doing it properly. Do it once, do it properly, finished. Anyway, look, I've raved enough trying to explain to you guys the reasons to be involved. The link between the three tiers of government, which is council, state and federal government. Very disappointed in the other two in the time frame that it's taken. They've been given reams of information to have made contact and to have organised to sit down and have proper discussions on this subject. Very disappointing in that, but when they finally do figure it out and they do come to the party, then we welcome them at that point. We have so much to offer and so much to give in the eradication of Lantana. We're not managing it anymore, we're eradicating it. There is no prisoners, there's no niceties about it. It's out of there. Thank you very much for taking the time. I appreciate you even watching this if you've gotten this far. But I'm not going to shorten it. This is not if you can't stay and watch the thing, then you're not going to be a solution to this problem. This is a problem that needs dedication. It needs us to be caring about what we're handing to our children. I'm 55 years old. I don't have a lifetime to do what I need to get done with the rest of my life to leave a better environment for your kids, my kids, and their children. I don't have the time to do it. There's going to be a lot of wonderful people that join this fight, and they will continue the fight, but we can't allow this to happen and to continue. Thank you very much for your support in watching this. Please, like I said, like and subscribe and join the fight. Bye-bye. I'm Gary, by the way, and my son Jolie do all the work. Bye-bye.